Yeah, 26th was his PhD project. I thought I was going to do those things of being PhD at 26. Eish, that's difficult. Does it make sense, comrades? So let's close it in that way. Fanon, we go to Fanon to get, because you can't just observe racism as an attitude. It's actually a deeper attack on the human soul. A deeper attack on the human psyche. And in Blackskin's White Masks, he takes the big fathers of psychology. He takes on Sigmund Freud. He takes on Lacan. Okay. Then he also takes on the guys of PAC like. They were called the people of negritude. Next. So you must read it. Let's close it here. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Would they need anyone else? We're going to take one round and close. Marx, Lenin, Fanon. Fanon, Lenin, Marx. You know, Karl Marx talks about, Fanon talks about the black man and language. Like the first chapter after the introduction. It's very interesting. He says the blacks in Europe speak better English than the Englishmen. Because black people always want to overdo because they seek recognition. That's why when you go to high schools, you listen to black kids when they debate. They focus on saying big words. But in the white schools, when they debate, they focus on facts. Because they're only a problem of identity. They don't do big words. They do facts. Rona, a generalization of the conditions perpetuated by the it's a basic colonial condition. It's a colonial condition. On the other hand, the deeper indigenous language. I'm not trying to be white. I'm not captured by the system. So they speak Zulu, only or Xhosa deeply, and they focus on understanding every superstition in the Xhosa culture. Or the overperformance of whatever, because you have an identity problem. It's all below colonialism. And it's generations after. Generations after. And then Fanon says the black man in the colony doesn't go through a day without dreaming of taking the master's place. It's a permanent dream of a slave, of a native, of blacks. They always dream of taking the master's place. And if needs be, even take his place in the bed. Take the medal. and everything else. Besides that, and the madams dominate us. They're in the magazines, Google TV, madam is everywhere. Our idea of beauty is, and then our women as well try to be the prototype of the madam. Because I don't share. So I'm going to go the aesthetic performance. So no, I should have a colonial condition out of that town. Colonial condition. It's those things that our society is structured by. And then those ones who want to rebel against the system, they're trying to must fight against the system. They do the afros, they don't comb, and then they speak properly, and they don't want to be like seen that they are integrating the white capitalist value systems. But God hell, they do that in the coffee shops. They read like Samoa and they do Shakespeare and what. So, colonial condition. Yeah, so just it's difficult. Until we have the means of production, we cannot, that's the basic thing. Until we've got the means of production, we cannot chart our own path. We cannot recreate ourselves. We cannot annex our X. Does it make sense? Because Malcolm X is that manifestation of the colonial condition. An empty identity or a questionable identity. You could have written Malcolm ? But it's still a Malcolm. Still the Malcolm. So you could criticize and say X of the Malcolm. How's Malcolm doing X? So there's still a colonial person. It's those things, it's difficult. Until we've got the necessary means of violence, the necessary means of production, we won't be able to chart a new way and a new path for ourselves and make whatever identity we will claim a fashionable identity. Does it make sense, comrades? That's why the president always says that is the beginning. Okay, so make sure these are questions. One.
Can you describe the simple terms for wisdom and intelligence? Secondly, you've just defined Marxism on its own and then Leninism and Fanon. Now we are in the next Marxist-Leninist phenomenon. So in one word, what are we with that combination? Because we should define it. And then another thing is that I read a lot of stuff about dialectical materialism. Is there, it doesn't really give you an exact definition, but it always refers on something. Do you have a definition that you can give us in terms of what is that? And then also, I think that there was an interest last night in terms of the revolution. When are we ready? When are we ready? What are the material conditions that are ready that we can say that we are ready for a revolution? Do you think that as a country, do you think that we'll ever get to a stage where we can have a revolution? Do we also need a political party to have a revolution? Because taking into account what happens in Egypt, Libya, those revolutions probably, I don't know if there was that part or not, but it just arose from the people. So those are the questions what are the conditions?
Yeah, some of them, comrades, I'm not going to respond to them because they are problematic. When we do ideological tools, we're not trying to say to you every question has been answered. They are tools that help us to answer the questions of our time. Okay? These are tools. Must never approach them as the alpha and omega. Yeah. But look, I said earlier on, what we seek to do about class is create a society that is not based on private ownership of the means of production. So we do away the private ownership of the means of production, and as a result, we will do away with production for profit, where what we produce, the objective for producing it is the maximization of profit. We engage in human innovation, we engage in production for the advancement of the human race, to live comfortably, to live and engage in forms of life that are dignified, and so on and so forth. And then a society, that is the principle, and therefore we can begin to enter the debate. I think we are always ready for that type of society. I think we are always ready. A revolution, in my view, it's a very humble view. There's a book by, it's an article I think, by Fiona Scott Paul. She once raised the question following the Iranian Revolution. She said, do revolutions happen or do they come? Are revolutions made or revolutions happen. That is, do they happen on their own, or they are active agents who engage in making the revolution. So for instance, people say, no, it just came from the ground and the people were trying to say there shouldn't be central organization which begins to direct the energies of protest and that big festival. So that after, Zizek says, for instance, revolution is to affect the everyday of life of the people, to change the everyday life of the people. That is, they no longer lack water. They no longer have to buy water. They no longer have to buy the means for shelter, the means for clothing, the means of health, the means of subsistence, as it were. So that you affect their daily life, education, access to education and all those things. You affect, if after the big festival in Tahrir Square, they still go back where they have to buy water, buy education, buy everything, the brick, buy the land, buy what, and all they did was to remove, what was his name? Mubarak. You get what I mean? Yeah. So that is the sense. We seek revolution. So the dismantling of private property and private ownership of the means of production, the dismantling of production for profit, and the sharing as much as possible of the means and the wealth of the country must manifest itself in the transformation of how people in their everyday life access the means of subsistence. Are we together, comrades? Yeah.